Welcome to LNK TV, Lincoln Fire and Rescue. I'm Dale Johnson. Look where we are today. We are in studio. We're not on my deck. We're not in my house doing the show. We are back here in the studio, and of course we are not quite out of the COVID scare, but we thought we'd start the program showing you that yes, indeed, we are masked up, and there's hand sanitizer all over the building, and my guest today is also masked up appropriately. Lincoln Fire and Rescue Battalion Chief, pull that thing off.
I'm
there,
pulling
Tim.
it off. There
okay,
we go.
We've got the
appropriate. I'll put it right there.
We have the appropriate distance
we'll
between
put it back
us.
on as soon as we're about 10 feet apart now.
So we're safe. Lincoln Fire and Rescue Battalion Chief Tim Linke is here today. Tim is a teacher. Tim is a trainer of many skills for Lincoln Fire and Rescue. I'm probably going to leave one out, so you listen to my list here. EMS is one, engine company operations, truck company operations, incident command, firefighter survival. Any more?
Well,
you're a man of many skills.
And you're giving me a lot of credit for doing all of that teaching. Right now, while I do a little bit of that, I'm responsible for overseeing those that provide all of that education and that training. And right now, we'll talk a little bit about the Recruit Academy that's starting here in another few days. I have 6 people that are primed just to do that provide that type of instruction. And I have a lot of other adjunct instructors on the job that have little pieces of expertise here and there and the passion to share it.
But in the past, you've dabbled in each one of those.
I have dabbled in each one. Yep, that's right.
Now, if I've done my math right, Tim, 22 years with
Yes.
Lincoln Fire and Rescue, going on 23.
Years. Yep.
So let's start back with year one. What has changed between year one in the training process? Because that's our main focus today is training. To be a first responder. To fast forward to today.
Year one has changed dramatically in the last 22 years. When I got hired in 1998, if you had Firefighter 1 certification and were an EMT, then the Recruit Academy was about 3 weeks. And then you went out in the field and did your 6 months probation. So we had my class, I had a class of 6, and half of us had those certifications before we got hired, and so we were in and we were out in 3 weeks. And the other half, they stayed, I think it was about another 6 weeks to get their Firefighter 1 certification from the state, and then they were out for 6 months. But you fast forward to 2020, and even with Firefighter 1 certification or not, and all of these folks come to us with EMT certification and licensure with the state of Nebraska, it's now an 18-week academy. So a tremendous amount has changed, and that all is a testament to the amount of work that our people have done over the years, and also just how things have changed. Fires are burning faster. The materials that we encounter are making things more challenging. EMS has changed, and the way we deliver EMS has changed. And there are a lot of technical skills, plus a lot of soft skills that we didn't work through, de-escalation tactics and just learning about some of the mental aspects of the job that we cover during that entire 18-week academy now.
The equipment. Think of how the equipment's changed in 2 decades.
Yes, absolutely. The technology with the equipment, I remember the defibrillator that I carried was a little bit smaller, but it was not as technical as the LifePak 15s that our EMTs and our paramedics carry now. That can do 12 lead EKGs, transmit those EKGs, do the shocking like everybody sees on TV, when somebody's heart stops. The equipment that technology is just tremendous now.
I've seen what you do, you and the first responders. I've seen what you do, and you make it look easy, and it's because you're well trained to do it. And I've dabbled in it myself. I've put on a firefighter suit and gone into structures and things like a couple of times. And believe me, it's not easy. Okay, but so in teaching recruits, pivoting back to the recruits, do you have to teach them that this is real stuff? Do they come in with any bravado or attitude that you have to say, this is real stuff? This isn't what you see on TV. This is real stuff. No?
Not to a certain extent. A lot of these these recruits that come in, you know, they come to us with a it doesn't matter what their age, you know, whether they're in their early 20s or, you know, in their 30s and 40s. Most of them come to us with a pretty decent sense of maturity already, and a lot of them, at least that we recognize during the interview process, we recognize that each one of these recruits had sort of an it factor, whether it was maturity, whether it was attitude and desire to do the work and to help people. And so occasionally you'll have a couple that you have to calm down a little bit in the first couple of days, but for the most part, they come to us eager to learn and ready to serve. And that 18 weeks goes really quickly for them. And then they go out and they're serving during their 6 months probation and then beyond that. And it's a you know, 25, 30, sometimes 35-year commitment for all of us that take on this profession. And that time goes just like that. It just seems like yesterday when I started myself.
Toughest skill you have to train into a recruit?
That's a fantastic question. I think probably the toughest skill, the toughest physical skill is probably the, you know, between the hose deployments and the laddering, because those are a really core skill in what we do. It requires some physical activity, it requires some strength, some endurance, and some teamwork in building that all together. But I would say even beyond the skills, it is that while it's not necessarily tough, it is that teamwork and that combination of both leadership and followership that we look for, because we're working together in crews of 3, 4, 5, or 6 sometimes, but getting them to work as a team and to understand that some folks have strengths in certain areas and other folks have strengths in others, and equipping them to do everything but understanding limitations and helping to elevate each other. That's while it may not be a specific skill, it is something that we really try to ingrain in our recruits.
Toughest thing you have to train out of a recruit?
Toughest thing to train out of a recruit.
They come in with this. You have to train out anything, whether it's attitude, whether it's doing things too quickly, doing things too slowly.
I think again, when you have to train something out of a recruit, it's and I'm not giving this answer as a cop-out, because it's very similar to my toughest thing to train into a recruit, but training out that individuality. We're all individuals, and everybody's diverse, and there is not a cookie cutter version of a firefighter. Over the last couple of decades, I've had a lot of people ask me, what do I need to do to become a firefighter? And I think they're looking for boxes to check. And when we look at the 16 recruits that we're starting on Monday, each one of them has something that they're bringing to the table, whether it's some work experience, whether some volunteer experience, some education, some community activities that they've done, and then their backgrounds. It all sort of comes together. So making sure that we can help to mold them into that team. We have to sometimes pull out some of that. We have to allow them to be individuals, because it wouldn't be any fun if people didn't have their own personalities. But we also have to make sure that they know that they're part of something greater than themselves.
Tim, that's a better answer than you might think, because I've seen the impact and the effect of teamwork. There might be a tendency to want to go into a situation solo, because you're there first, or you're waiting for your other firefighter team to come up. But that's a better answer than you might think. To wait for the help to go in as a team, and the success rate is better.
That's right.
If they wait for a moment.
And you know, if you go back to that other question about what's the toughest thing to train into somebody, it is that decision making, and that's a career-long endeavor. Because there are skills that we try to master: the hose deployments, high performance CPR, ladders, search and rescue, extrication, rope rescue, water rescue. Just name the discipline that we handle. And there are still elements of risk in there that you have to hone through training and experience over the course of your career that require you to have an ability to make a decision. And whether that's because you can recognize what the situation is and know what your capabilities and your team's capabilities are, or you know your limitations already, and so you're not going to engage until you have someone that can help you. That's and that's a little bit more of an ethereal answer. You know, it's sort of out there, I think, and there are lots of, you know, there are hundreds of books written about it, but you know, it's something that we just develop and have to try to capture.
And then the adrenaline kicks in.
Oh, yeah,
The rush
definitely
kicks in.
Yeah, yeah. Teaching yourself to take a few deep breaths and getting it out of your system. In fact, one of the first things that we teach the recruits within about the first couple of weeks, we teach them fire behavior, or what we call fire dynamics now. And most of these recruits have never seen a real fire other than a campfire close up, unless some of them were ornery like me and, you know, did some things when they were kids and teenagers. But we have to show them how the fire starts, how it builds, what types of things they might encounter within a burning structure. But the last couple of classes, we've actually just taken them into our burn box, which you've done that before. We've taken them in there, and the first time we just light the fire and show them, and we say a few things to them. We try to teach them a few of the finer points of what is happening around them, but we don't expect them to remember any of it because the adrenaline is flowing and their eyes are as big as saucers, and we just let them get through it. So we do that. That takes about half hour, 45 minutes. And we put the fire out, we come outside, everybody takes off their bunker gear, their SCBA, they drink their water, we let them sit and take a break, and then we just say, okay, now you hopefully have it out of your system. Give me your questions, or tell me what you saw, and tell me what you would like to see the next time. And then we repeat it at least once or twice more so that they can see it, and then they see that a few times during the course of their academy as well.
What impacted me was the heat. There was the sensation of heat that took my mind off of my visual.
Yeah.
Because I thought, am I getting too hot? How much
Right.
how much hotter will I get inside this box? And you lose focus on what it takes, because there's so many dynamics going on inside that box with fire that's building.
Absolutely, and that's a great memory that you bring up, because we actually had a recruit the last time that was the question that they asked. How hot is too hot? Because that's relative to everyone, number one, but number two, we have such a good protective ensemble with our bunker gear that when you start to feel the heat on your skin, then it probably is getting a little bit too hot if you're not applying water. And obviously we have to always remember that the victims that we're going in to search for and hopefully rescue are wearing basically what we're wearing right now, and so they don't have that luxury. And so if we're feeling the heat, that's something that we just have to be very, very careful of, and that's a piece in that decision-making process that's really hard to teach, because there's no real right answer. You can't say, well, when you feel this heat, then it's time to get out. There are some other factors to it as well.
I'm going to get into the weeds here just a little bit. Is it tough to teach time? And I'll equate this to what I do. I, over the years, know how long 2 minutes is, how long 5 minutes is, 30 seconds is, because I've been doing it for 35 years. Is it tough to teach time?
It is. It is tough to teach time from a couple of standpoints. The time just goes so quickly, especially when your heart's beating so quickly and so rapidly, and you're in those more intense situations, and that's why over time we have to, through our chain of command, our supervision, our training, we expect our company officers and acting company officers and chief officers who can stand back and look at the bigger picture within a burning building, let's say, and they can say, you've been in there long enough, or you've been doing this long enough. And another example is when paramedics are attempting to intubate a patient. The amount of time that the patient is going without oxygen while you're trying to put the tube in, it doesn't seem like it's taking you very long, but you always need to have somebody behind you telling you, it's been about 8-10 seconds. You should probably be finishing this up or getting the bag valve mask going and oxygenating and ventilating this patient. So yeah, it's really hard to manage that time, and so you always need to have someone supervising that. And also you have to have, as a firefighter, EMT, and paramedic, and so on and so forth, you have to have the humility to know that when somebody taps you on the shoulder and it's time to either get out or finish doing what you're doing, you have to be able to handle that mentally as well.
All right, what are the qualifications, the standards on day one that a recruit must meet?
So day one in Lincoln, it's high school diploma or a GED, and that's a valid driver's license. Those are minimum qualifications. Now, that sounds like very little required in regard to what we're looking for, and so I will say that the folks that we're hiring nowadays, a lot of them have their EMT certification. We are always actively pursuing paramedics. Mm-hmm. In fact, we're just finishing up a paramedic recruitment right now. Some folks have their Firefighter 1 certification. Some folks have their Firefighter 2 certification through the state of Nebraska. But then other pieces, other preferred qualifications, I guess you could call them, or things that set some of these folks apart. Some relevant work experience, whether at another agency or as a volunteer. We have folks that we're taking on with military experience, even some combat experience. We have folks that have associate's degrees, bachelor's degrees, masters, and we even have folks with doctorate degrees on the job, and just a variety of different pieces that make if you want to call it, the total candidate for us. And again, there's still some character factors that we look for during the interview process, during the background check, during the psych process as well, that help us to really hone in on if this person is really going to be a good fit for us.
Physical requirements?
Physical requirements. We used to do a full-on agility test that mimicked a lot of the tasks that firefighters perform. You know, some folks have probably seen pictures of our candidates pulling a charged hose line, carrying a jaws, poking or simulating the poking of a pike pole through a ceiling, raising a ladder, pulling a 175-pound mannequin. So that's what we used to do. However, we found that sometimes simpler is better. And when Chief Despain got here, we started using the 1.5 mile run within a 15-minute time frame as a standard, because that 1.5 mile run in 15 minutes or less essentially has the same physical requirement, full total body fitness requirement that we're looking for a firefighter. And it's a lot easier for us to put together. It's a lot easier for us to manage. And beyond that, we have a pretty extensive wellness and fitness program in the Recruit Academy. So we know that if, you don't get any more points for running that in 10 minutes versus 14:59. But we do know that if you're running it in 14:59, you passed, you're gonna come work for us. We're excited to have you, but we'll also provide you with some tools to get better, so that you have that upper body strength and that lower body strength and that total body fitness.
Amount of book skills to on-scene training?
So that is one of the toughest things to translate for us, is the academic requirements and the book requirements. So the Firefighter 1 manual, or the Essentials of Firefighting, that I used when I first became a firefighter, was about this thick. I want to say maybe it was 400 pages, and now we're in the 7th edition. That was the 2nd or 3rd edition, so I am dating myself. Now we're at about 1,000 pages, and that's just for the firefighter manual. Then the paramedic programs, a lot of them are using 4 and 5 volumes of books, pathophysiology, physiology, those types of things. And so we've got a lot of information to cram in at one time. And so what we like to do is we evaluate their academic skills with quizzes because they have to pass a state exam to get Firefighter 1 certified if they're not already. And so we evaluate that, but what it shows us more, if they're doing well, if they're doing well on quizzes, then we know that they're serious about the job. We know they're going home at night, and we know that they're studying. We know that they're dedicated, which is more important in a lot of cases than the academic performance. But then we have to still be able to show them, okay, here are the pictures in the books, or here are the job performance requirements at the end of the chapter that you learned about. Now we'll go out and we'll practice it. And while we practice it, we're using a lot of repetition where they get it over and over and over again. And then you start to throw in obstacles that they will actually see in real life. And you have to sort of walk with them when you're showing them these skills and having them hone and perfect these skills, because they have to do it in a very limited time frame with their adrenaline pumping. And oh, by the way, there's a burning building in front of you, or oh, by the way, there's a cardiac arrest patient in front of you. You have to explain to them so that they understand what they're actually going through. Because sometimes, and I remember this early on in my career, I would go through something, and then afterwards, once you've taken all your gear off and taken the time to take a few deep breaths and gotten some water and rested just a little bit, and then you needed somebody who had some experience to remind you of what you just went through. Mm-hmm. And that's really something that we try to focus on is that continuous learning, because if you just went through something and you went from point A to point B, that's one thing. You've achieved something. But if you don't have somebody that explains to you, hey, by the way, did you notice that when you opened the door that the smoke looked like this, and the next time this happens, you're going to need to flow your water a little bit sooner? Or did you notice that this patient who was on their bed, the amount of time that it took to get them to the floor to start CPR? That, we need to work on that. We need to practice that. And you have to think about those things over the course of your career.
Now, I would like to think that we have piqued someone's interest, someone who's looking for a career move, or maybe because of COVID, they're looking for a career change that's been forced upon them. So where can people go? When do classes start? I believe you said a class is starting soon.
Sure. So as far as coming to work for us at Lincoln Fire and Rescue, one of the best things that you can do is, at least to start, go become an emergency medical technician, which is about a 6-month process. You can take those courses at a local community college, whether you live here in Lincoln or somewhere else. Most community colleges offer some form of EMT training. If you want to be really marketable in the fire service in general, and then emergency medical services as well, go on to paramedic school. My suggestion personally is that you get a little bit of experience as an EMT somewhere first before you go to paramedic school, because that is literally drinking from the fire hose if you don't have any experience. Become a paramedic. A paramedic is very valuable, obviously to us, but any other agency around us, and there are private ambulance services that also have that as a career path as well. So those would be the two big things that we're actually looking for. But if you are in an area where there are volunteer fire departments or EMS agencies, certainly look into volunteering for them. There's the Red Cross. There are online courses available everywhere. There are community colleges that have fire protection programs. There are online programs for at a baccalaureate level for fire science and for emergency medical services. So there are a ton of things out there. We don't typically endorse any one program, but we just know that there are plenty of opportunities out there to continue to grow and develop if you have an interest in that career. I would say also give us a call at some point in time. When we're hopefully done with all this COVID stuff, we can start taking ride-alongs again, and you can come to the station and meet some of our personnel and see what kind of working atmosphere they'd be coming into, but also seeing the day-to-day work. It's not like Backdraft or Ladder 49 or anything like that, where it's 100% action all the time. While there's downtime, we are functioning at a pretty high level throughout the entire shift, and you have to be able to problem solve in a bunch of different ways. So find ways to learn how to become a problem solver, but also do things that help develop your leadership and your character. And those are the things that we see during the interview process that really set people apart. And I would say, having participated in the interview process the past few classes, we can tell when somebody is, you can be over prepared for an interview. So you can come in, and if you're mechanical and you can get online and type in firefighter interview skills, and there are a lot of people that are willing to take your money to teach you how to interview. But if you're over prepared, we know that, and then there's a little bit of superficiality to who we may perceive you as, and so we're less likely to give you a second look. On the flip side, if you were so underprepared that you can't string a few words together to make a sentence, that can be an issue too. We're okay with people being nervous. I'm nervous right now sitting here in front of the camera. People have sweaty palms and they get a little bit sweaty, but there's a certain sincerity and authenticity that we look for that in a lot of cases you can't really prepare for. We don't ask you difficult questions during the interview. We don't ask you to do long division or anything like that. We ask questions that try to bring out the type of person that you are and the character that you have. And then on top of that, some of the relationships that our candidates have found to be beneficial to them, they've come to us and we've asked them, why do you want to work for Lincoln Fire? And they know a firefighter, and they've said, this person is a fantastic individual, both on duty and off duty, and I want to be like that person. And that's really helped us to identify folks that are really serious about coming to work for us.
So if you are serious about it at all, go to Lincoln Fire and Rescue, Google some recruit training, think about it, and when the time allows it, when COVID allows it, go visit a fire station, talk to a firefighter, talk to a paramedic, and it's rewarding, it's intense, it's rewarding, and you meet some great people. I've met some great people over the years by my association with Lincoln Fire and Rescue. And Tim Linke right here, 10 feet away.
Got to make sure we get that in.
Is one of them, yes, with his mask right there. We started the show with our masks on.
Thank you, Dale.
So, Tim, be safe.
I will.
And you all be safe out there. We'll talk again on Lincoln Fire and Rescue.